Hi, everyone. Welcome to Small Talk. Well, my guest today, now this is interesting. She is a novelist, short fiction writer, screenwriter, editor, and teacher. Time to meet Claire Mulligan. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's so nice to have you here. I really appreciate saying
Yeah,
yes to the invite.
yeah.
So I want to talk first about being a novelist.
Okay.
So when did you start writing to begin with?
I think, I always did a little bit of writing, but, some people say they were been writing since they were kids. I did a ton of reading. I read and read and read. I was one of those kids who sat in the corner and read all the time when I should have been doing math. But I waited until I was probably in my late 20s before I started writing short fiction first.
Okay.
And that started winning awards and getting published in like magazines. And, I have a whole bunch of these. Show you a bunch of them here. Uh, which these are like the Antigonish Review, Dalhousie Review, those kind of things. There's a cartoon of there was a cartoon, I think in the New Yorker, and it shows a little girl being her teacher saying, she has a lot of talent as a writer, and the caption says, and thus Mary's life was destroyed, right? Because you, even if you have talent as a writer and you start seeing yourself getting published and winning awards, it's no means to, it's a very hard career to make any money out of. Success sometimes, but is not a pathway to riches unless you're very, very, very lucky and particular about what you're writing. So anyways, I started winning lots of awards and getting all kinds of traction, and then I got a Canada Council grant to do my first book of short stories, and that was published as a chapbook through another contest that I won. And then from then on, I started writing a novel. And at that time, I was doing my degree in anthropology at UBC. Okay. And I switched over my major into English, but the anthropology focus really gave me a lot of insight into writing, into how cultures work, how people think. Anthropology is very good at forcing you to think from the inside of someone's worldview, right? Which is very important for a writer to get outside of their own head and think, well, how will my character view this? Not me, but somebody else, right? So that was very helpful. And I often encourage people when they're thinking about becoming a writer is like, well, study anything except English or creative writing, right? You have to have something to write about that's interesting. If you're studying history, if you're studying, sociology, if you're studying philosophy, that gives you something to write about, right? Like English, naturally as writers, we often read a lot. So, anyways, I did learn stuff in the English degree, but I learned more in anthropology about how to find creative ideas. So my first novel was, again, I got a council grant for that, which was great. And so this was the Reckoning of Boston Jim. Okay. And that was published by Brindle and Glass in 2000, which is now Touchwood, I believe, Touchwood Editions. Mm-hmm. And it did really well. Well, I mean, for this kind of an indie book, so a smaller publisher. It was on the Giller Prize list, on the long list, which was great for 2007. I mean, it's going back a ways now. No, 2000. 2007. Yeah, 2007. And then,
sorry, I was just going to say, what? Can you give me a little idea of what it's about?
Okay, so it's set in 1863 during the building of the Caribou Wagon Road and the inception of Victoria, and that it's a historical fiction. And it focuses on there's a central theme of reciprocity, which again I got from studying anthropology. And this lone trapper and trader guy, Boston Jim, he becomes obsessed with reciprocating an unexpected kindness, right? But it's using the principle of escalation, which is always a good one when you're writing to things. As he keeps trying to find a way to reciprocate everything, keeps going bigger and bigger and bigger till he gets a little bit obsessed, and then he ends up going up the Caribou Wagon Road searching for the woman he wants to reciprocate for in search of her husband. But yeah, things go awry as they do. So yeah, it was a lot of research. It takes place in Victoria and Barkerville and the Caribou Wagon Road. And when I was thinking of writing it, I hadn't seen any books set in British Columbia for historical fiction. Very few.
Right.
And if they were, they're maybe in the 20s or the 17th, nothing said in that era. There was one book that was sort of a pot boiler kind of style. So yeah, and I think, the West is often neglected in terms of, topics, right? Eastern Canada is also favored. So yeah, I did well. And then I wrote my second book 2013 that came out with Random House. And yeah, so it's
The,
been
the Dark, the second book.
The Dark. Yeah, yeah. This one here. Love the cover. It's an amazing cover. So it's in soft cover as well, and then it came out in French in 2014.
In French, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They had Sophie Villot. She
Very
of,
good. So what
yeah, Alto Editions, I believe it was. Yeah, obviously I have not read the French, but it's thicker. It's actually thicker than the other ones. Apparently French is a longer language. It was a really fun process because she would often, because this one is set in the 1840s in the U.S. and it's based on the true story of the Fox sisters. And the Fox sisters were the ones who accidentally on purpose began spiritualism, Ouija boards and talking to the dead. And they were the ones who really brought that forward. And they had a very complicated relationship between the three of them, older sister, two younger sisters. Older sister was a bit of a Svengali character and opportunist, let's say. So kind of a part ghost story, part analysis of how we choose to believe certain things and how we get, well, basically, if you tell a lie and the lie can take on a life of its own because they did. It was they made up a story about a ghost and next thing you know. But I found it fascinating and it was, and I was living in the US at the time. So in that area, so I could research all that stuff. So that came out in 2013. That did well, had some awards and, stuff like that. But it really took a lot out of me. I always had young kids at the time and,
right.
And then you start doing the math, even if you get a decent advance, it's like, it's very hard to make a living.
You'll have to put the time in, right?
Yeah. So I started doing teaching night classes in historical fiction, and then in the U.S. and that was fun. I met a nice group of writers there, and then when I moved here back home to Victoria, I grew up in Kelowna, lived in Vancouver a lot, lived in Whistler, all that kind of stuff. But BC's my home, so when I ended up back in Victoria, I started teaching at UVic continuing education. So I teach historical fiction there, teach my own classes. Then I did a map. I wouldn't say I got disillusioned with writing novels, and I'm definitely going to write more. It's just that I wanted to expand my craft. And I found that with little kids and trying to work, just regular paying the bills, it just took a lot. It's hard to buckle down, right? It's kind of a privilege to be able to write, to be honest. So I ended up doing a master's in screenwriting at UVic, and because I was became increasingly interested in how that works and and also when you're thinking about film stories, you're thinking in images, right? You're thinking images and scenes, and it's much easier to kind of do it on the fly when you're just going out for a walk or you're just doing something else. With writing, I have to be at my desk, I have to be on a piece of paper, I have to be really focused on it. With screenwriting, I can kind of space out and think about it in a different way. It's a different thinking process. So I did my master's in that, and that was great. And since then I've done a couple of short films. I've had 2 short films produced.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And we're working on a 3rd right now. Yes. So the first one was 2019, The Still Life of Annika Myers. And that, I got to talk to the director because I'd love to see if it's on Vimeo and people can see it there. Short film, 20 minutes, right? About an older couple two older characters in their 80s who have a bit of a romance, and it's all about a painting that was stolen during the Second World War. So it's a still life. And then the second one is called Obscura, and that got, so I have a creative partner, Arnold Lim now, and Arnold is a director here in Victoria. He's great. He's Korean Canadian, and he likes to have that focus. And so we've been working together on, so I had a script and an idea, Obscura, about a kid, a hikikomori kid. Those are children or people, young men usually, who go into their rooms and close the door and they don't come out again, right? It's a phenomena that started in Japan and then has since spread around the world. It's a very, very worrisome trend.
Right.
Also young men. So this is, this young man has done this, and, his family desperately wants him to come out of his room. And so his grandfather cuts the power, and, turns out the only way he can make light come in the room is to create an obscura. Camera obscuras are those, it's a pinhole camera, basically. You make a pinhole in your room, in a darkened room, and it brings in light, but it also brings in the outside world. It also brings in what's outside onto your walls. So it's all, about this. It's a very trippy looking film. We're very proud of it. It took a lot. We got the Director Guild of Canada award to produce it and create it. And then we got Canada Council grant. So we got enough money to do justice. Still, it's a money pit. Like films are a money pit, right? You're doing them again, like you're doing you're putting all the money into the film and the crew and help getting people paid and getting food, and you end up making maybe $100 yourself, right, for the whole. So it's a labor of love, and hopefully go somewhere. So Obscura will be coming out this year. We're putting it in the festival run coming up now.
Mhm.
Yeah, we're very proud of that film. We had some wonderful people working on it. When people talk about film, one of the things I really love best versus when you write a novel or book, people get it, they love it, they read it, they enjoy it, or maybe they don't enjoy it, whatever.
Mhm.
But it doesn't really give them anything, like the process. Whereas with screenwriting, when I worked on this film, even though we're not paying people a lot, it was an indie film, so you're paying like $100 a day.
Yeah. Right.
Gives all these wonderful opportunities to people starting on the film industry to build their CV, to work on something that's really good.
Yeah.
It gives actors actors they just love roles. I mean, obviously that's what they do, right? So it gives them this incredible opportunities. And we had the older man who played the grandfather. He'd very hard to find a Korean Canadian who could play the grandfather and who could act. Like, we spent a lot of time trying to find the right, because they're all Korean Canadian family. And finally we found this, and he's just lovely. Oh my God, he was such a sweetheart.
Nice.
And we brought him over. We had enough money to give him a beautiful hotel room and food, and not a lot of money like for doing the job. He's retired. I mean, and he had so much fun. I think it was the best time.
Oh,
And we treated him like a star.
cool. That is so.
Movie star, and he did such an amazing job. And I think it was just such a wonderful experience for him. He's going to be probably, hopefully, doing other roles now.
Right.
He's in that. So it gives people, I don't know, an extra.
Listen, I understand. I did some student films,
Mm,
and it was so much fun. And not only the part you get to play, but you get to watch everything that's going on. And what a learning process. And those young people, they're so talented.
they're so talented, and it is fun. I mean, film is fun. I like collaborative work. I like working with other people. I like getting out of my house. I'm actually quite social, so writing by myself. I like that process too. I like being on my own, but I really like working with a team. If it's a good team, it's really fun. So yeah, we were out scouting yesterday for this new little project we're working on, and that was it's really fun.
Very well. It sounds like fun. Like
There.
I was
Yeah.
lucky to be able to be in a couple of student films, and I love that. I would do it again, except everything's in Vancouver and I'm in Chilliwack, and I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, anybody can make a film, right? It's easy now too, with the easier cameras and things like that. And I don't know if you're in Chilliwack, they might not have. We have here Cinevic, which is the Independent Society of Filmmakers, and often towns will have these, and so it's funded. We get grants and things like that, and equipment. We have tons of equipment. People can rent the equipment to make their own films if they're a member. So the membership is like $80 a year or something. Plus, you have to do some volunteer work. Yeah. But it enables all these perks and community, and as well as amazing gear. I'm not the gear person, but people who are into gear are really always excited about the cameras that they have and things like that. So yeah, if anyone's looking to make a small film, you look into your independent film society in your town, Vancouver. Usually larger centers have one,
right?
And you can go from there.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Now you're also an editor.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what kind of editor? Because I know there's all different kinds of editing.
Well, I do all kinds of editing. I can do copy editing, but I'm not thrilled about it because it's like, doing the capitals and the commas. I do love developmental editing. Mm-hmm. So let's say you are thinking of an idea, and I always encourage people before you start really spending years on your memoir or historical fiction or any kind of story, really is to bounce it off somebody who's in the know, who knows a little bit about this, right? Because it can really save you years of work to think about how to approach the topic the best way in, and the best structure, the best, focus on character and all that kind of stuff. Right. So often I get, I work for Cascadia Author Services, which is a really good author. Cascadia is really good. They have, and they send me work, and they send me, and I say yes or no or whatever. So I do style edits for them as well as developmental edits. And then I have a lot of people, just word of mouth mostly. Yeah. So I don't really advertise that much. I just mostly get word of mouth. I like working on historical fiction, obviously. I think, I know a lot about it. I know all how to, that's my forte. So, That's what I like to do best. But I also do anything really, and I always try to make it the best it is. Like, even if it's not something I would read personally, I'm working on a Christian memoir right now, which, I mean, it's not my forte, but again, I mean, then you want to make it the best genre that is for that. So often I'll read like what other, what's the comp book and what makes it successful, right?
Right.
And how can you do it that way? Like, not that way, but how can you borrow from what they're doing to make it, as powerful and as meaningful as you can, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's all really interesting.
'Cause
I learn every time. Every time I edit, I'm like, oh, I learned something new. Maybe I learned something new about the world or about someone, or my own skills
Mhm.
go up because I've had to think in a new way or understand a new topic or something like that.
Right. That's why I do this. I always learn something. I love
I know, right? It's so fun.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you're working on a short film coming up,
Yeah. Working on a little short film.
right? And what do you have any other things on your agenda that are going to be doing soon that you're going to be involved in?
That I'm going to be doing soon. I am teaching a webinar called, oh, actually, I forgot. I have two things on Monday, and I can send you the links to your, I
Monday.
don't know.
This won't air in time.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, well, I can send it to you. Well, I do these monthly. I have a membership now. Like I've been working on it for a couple of months, like 2 months, and I have members that I've been working with forever. So, but I'm sort of starting to expand. So it's a membership called Work and Tumble. And basically for one thing, I do free author interviews every month.
Yeah.
And this month I have Laurie Elmquist, and she's a children's writer, published with Orca, writes baby books, so exciting. I had Roberta Rich, who is an international best-selling author of the Midwife of Venice series.
Okay.
And I had before that Peggy Herring, whose book I actually edited for Brindle and Glass, and it's a historical fiction as well, all set on the in 1800s and about a Russian shipwreck, and they're shipwrecked and they end up living with the indigenous communities there. And it's the focus of the one woman there. And that was interesting because it's all about how to portray indigenous languages, Russian language. I mean, it's in English, right? You come across books, I'm sure, where, it's set in the past or it's set in some other country, but of course the text is in English, but you have to sort of render it and get that feeling of it's being spoken in a different language. So that's a whole interesting skill set that easily took up took up a lot of interesting talk. So I try and make it these interviews writer craft driven. So what can we learn, as writers from this author, and how can we apply it to our own genre and craft and things like that. So I do that, and then we have one interview, we have one class, and I always do it through the lens of a mentor. So this month it was Edward Lear, who was the precursor to Lewis Carroll, and he wrote limericks and all these amazing kind of dark, The Owl and the Pussycat, and a lot of other a little bit dark stories for children. And so we practice through the lens of his techniques.
Right.
And this month I think it's gonna be Plutarch, who did the first bios. He was really into doing bios of people. So we're going to work on CNF, creative nonfiction bios and stuff through the lens of Plutarch. And then I have a memoirist, Melissa Sestaro, who did an amazing memoir about her mother that was published a couple of years ago and did very well in the States. But it's more through story archaeology, is what we call that one, because she takes items and, understands stories through actual artifacts, which I think is a very interesting way into a story. Wow. So yeah, I try and craft the whole month, and we do a submissions month where we work on submissions, or a submissions night, and then a workshop night. So there's something every Monday night, Sunday morning write-ins, where we just come and talk about what we're going to work on, and then go off and write for 2 hours, holding people to account, and go back. So it's a lot. It's good value. Yeah, I'm starting off to see if I want to do it, how long this can go on. I don't know. I'd like to do it if I get enough participants and figure out my price points properly, and it's a good deal right now. I think I'm charging, like, for the next couple of months, it's $35 a month, I think. Yeah, until I don't know.
I'm just thinking, how do you balance everything?
I do. Well, this is I mean, yeah. It makes it busy, right? So my goal is to sort of make the membership hopefully pay my, be having just enough that I can, focus on other things during the week. But like anything, I'm sure like with these, it takes up more time than you think, because you have to prep and you have to find people and you have to do this. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot more work than I thought, but
yeah.
at the same time, it's fun. I'm also doing a I'm starting a course, the Classics for Writers. It's going to be online Zoom, May 29th, I think. I haven't solidified the dates. Probably. Yeah, I think May. I've got my calendar here, so sorry, I should have had it pulled up. But yeah, I think it's like May 29th. And that's going to be a 6 weeks course. We're looking at writing through the lens of the great ancient classics. So it'll be Hesiod, Homer, Hesiod, Homer, Sappho, and Aristotle and Sophocles probably. So you're just reading excerpts and you're taking, it sounds hard, everybody doesn't do it. It's not that hard. I mean, really, we read excerpts and then we do exercises or prompts based on their techniques, right?
Okay, yeah.
So with Sophocles, he had a particular kind of dialogue called sticomythia, where you go back and forth really quickly, which you see in Shakespeare and you see in films now, and that's where it originated. So we learn about that, and then we just do a prompt where you have to do dialogue of quick back and forth of two or three lines each. Yeah. So it's that kind of thing. So you feel, I like to say, a little superficial knowledge goes a long way. So afterwards, you could probably fake that you have a classical education in the classics when, to most people, whereas maybe not to a professor, but to most people. So yeah, we learn about the Iliad and the Odyssey and read excerpts. And certainly students can read the whole thing if they want. And I encourage that because they're not that hard. Yeah, everybody thinks they're hard. It's like, there's a lot of other things like Paradise Lost or Milton or some of the later ones, they're much harder to read, I think, because they're much more kind of metaphorical and esoteric and things like that. But the Iliad, they're adventure stories, right? They're like sword and sandals and epics, so it's actually easier. So I do that, and I'm also for the, I know so many things, the Federation of BC Writers.
Okay.
They have a webinar series, and they asked me to do a webinar for them, and so it's through them. So sign up has to go through them, going onto their website, and it's Aristotle's Tips for Writers. So it's looking at his Poetics, which was the first how-to book for writers back when, and drawing tips from them. So it's a fairly straightforward one. So that's on May 5th. I think.
Okay.
Sunday, May 5th. Yeah.
So what would be the best way for people to get a hold of you to find out more information?
From my website or just email me directly.
Okay.
So my website is mulliganmethod.ca.
Mulliganmethod.ca. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Mulliganmethod.ca.
I'll make sure I can include that. All right. So we're just about out of time. But this has been fun and really interesting, I'm always amazed that people are so multi-talented, and they got all these things happening all the time. And I'm sure your brain is always going, thinking about,
It is.
Whatever.
Yeah. Lists are my friend.
Just are your friend. Yeah. Well, just stay on camera for a second. So to the audience, thank you very much for watching. You've been listening to Clair Mulligan. And as I said, I'm going to include her information so you can find out more, where to buy her books, etc. And if you want to take any of the courses that she's offering, she can help you out there too, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, you can email me, Clair at mulliganmethod.ca. It's on my website.
Very good.
It's a new website. I'm still tinkering to figure out how best to make, how it is with everything. Everything's hard. Everything takes time, right? So I'm still it's still under construction a little bit, but there it is. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for watching this show. I hope you continue to do so. Take care and peace out.
Yeah.
Oops.
Bye.